I do have one rogue end hanging here. Couldn't grab it. Hi friends, welcome back. I'm MC, a knit and crochet designer and yarn dyer from Connecticut, and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Blame the Knots, on my website, blametheknots.com, and of course, right here on YouTube where you can get to know me a little bit better. Today, we are here for episode 51 of the podcast, and it is currently Wednesday, June 18th. I'm a little thrown off because I rearranged my schedule this week and I forgot what day I was recording on. So we have some new things to talk about today that we haven't talked about, I don't think, on the podcast ever before. So I am not wearing anything handmade. So let's jump right in to our finished objects. Honestly, the amount of knitting and crochet I have to show you today feels really weird for me, and I don't know how to handle it. It all feels very strange. I only have one finished object to show you, and this is something new, and I have decided to call this the Keeley crop. And this is made with some handspun yarn. If you've been following me around here lately, you might recognize this yarn. I spun this when I was in Hawaii, and then I took it with me on a recent trip to Indiana, and I made this tank, and I really love it. It's just a kind of boxy, really boxy fit, just simple with some I-cords, slightly wider neck, and wide strapless boxy tank. I do have one rogue end hanging here. Couldn't grab it. Because I'm not positive yet. I might rip out the hem and do it again. I did it when I was at the beach. And I started to bind it off and sew down that it has a double folded hem, and I started to do that when I was at the beach, and I didn't really have like all of the stuff with me that I wanted to, and it's just a little bit sloppy. Like, I don't think you can't tell, and honestly you really can't even tell when it's on, but like I know, and it's bugging me. So to be determined. I might like put it on and wear it around the house for the day tomorrow maybe, or something like that, and see how I feel about it and then make my final decision. In the end, it's like really not a big deal, and it's just one of those like I know but not everyone knows that it looks all sloppy on the inside, but I don't know. The farther I get away from having done that, the less I want to do it, so maybe if I just keep putting it off, I'll end up being fine with it. Anyway, this is made with 100% Corriedale fiber that I hand spun myself to a fingering weight gauge, and let's see, what else do I have to say about it? This one I made fitting me. It has pretty much neutral ease for me around the bust, and I kind of want to make one a little bit boxier with maybe 2 to 4 inches of positive ease as well. I think I'm gonna make one with just some of my regular yarn that's not hand spun. But anyway, this is a continuation of a, I guess, series of designs that I am embarking on that are named after the sheep that I have processed that have names. And I am designing them all with handspun yarn. I will make samples with regular milled yarn as well, but you know, there's just something fun about doing it with the handspun first. So this is named after the second fleece that I ever processed, and her name is up for debate. I have done as much research as I possibly can, but it seems like depending on where you are from, it is a Gaelic name, and it is either Kaylin, Keelan, Queelin, Quaylin, something like that. But it seems like everybody can kind of agree on the fact that Keely is a nickname for it. So that's what I'm going with for this. Plus it is a lot easier to spell and for the general public to say and write down and talk about when they're working on it. So this is the Keely crop and I'm very happy with it. I can't wait to wear it. Can't wait to make another one. I kind of want to make one in like a very neutral, like basic staple color. I feel like it would be great in like a white, a black, a beige, something like that. Just like a really staple crop. So that's it. That's all I have finished for knitting and crocheting. I do have 2 finished spins, however. The first one you saw in action last time. I can't remember if I had already finished spinning it completely or not, but whatever. Anyway, this is my on the road spin, and this is some Jacob that was dyed by Wee Chickadee Wool Co. And it was a one-of-a-kind braid, and I love it. It was deep and dark and moody, and I did combination or parallel drafting for it to really mix and mingle the colors together, and hopefully you can see that a little bit in there. My goal was to hopefully not have it do the striping that can happen when you do a fractal, which is what I did with this. This was spun as a fractal, and you can see that it stripes, which is fine for this, but I wanted to not have striping for this. Ideally, there might still be a little bit in there because this was my first time trying that drafting style, and I might have, you know, not been great at it. But I got, I believe, about 650 yards out of this. I say I believe because I think I measured the yardage before I soaked the yarn, and I think that the yarn really bloomed and puffed up when I soaked it and snapped it. So therefore I might have lost some yardage, right? Because if the yarn is like, if it's this long, but then it poofs up and gets thicker, it's going to pull in some of the yardage. Like for instance, I do I use a 2-yard nitty knotty to wind off my yarn. So basically the loop, if I hold the loop up, it's about 36 inches, which is a yard, long. But after I snapped the yarn, it was about 33, 34 inches long. So it shrunk a little bit. So I have not recalculated yardage. I haven't tried to figure it out. I am just gonna move forward, I think. I might try to recount at some point because I do want to use this again for a design. So I should probably take the time and do the math. Okay, fine, I will. I'll do it. I'll figure out my actual appropriate yardage. But we'll go with 650-ish for right now. And I have, as you can see, already wound up one of the skeins because I have started to swatch for my next design. So very much looking forward to being able to work with that. I just need to clear up the needles that I need before I can work on it. And the last thing that I have to show you is yet another completed spin. And this was stained glass from Frabjous Fibers on BFL. And like you can tell, like if I just hold these up, like look at this, is so funny. Yes, of course, one of the skeins is bigger and has more yardage than the other, but like this one is more resistant, right? It's more solid when I try to bend it. This one just like floop. Like if I just hold it here like this, it just flops over. Whereas this one has more structure to it. So that's because BFL is a longer staple length and therefore gets kind of floopy. So this one, I ended up with 235 yards. I spun this when I was away in Indiana. And there is a whole vlog for that. So if you want to go watch that, I will talk about it a little bit more later, but you can see me spinning this. And what I ended up doing is actually, I split the braid into quarters, and then on one bobbin, I spun from start to finish, and then I took another quarter and spun from start to finish. And then on the other bobbin, I spun from finish to start and then added in the next quarter and did finish to start. So I just wanted to see what would happen. And it's fun. I think it's going to be very stripy, even more stripy than a fractal, like I guess more defined stripes than a fractal. I have, did I say I have about 235 yards? It is roughly a DK weight yarn. It's like actually in some places, well, no, it's DK. This is just using my eyeballs. This is not like measuring, but it's roughly DK weight. I could have gotten a lot more yardage. I ended up leaving a lot on one of the bobbins and just not dealing with it because I split it poorly, and one bobbin had a lot more fiber on it than the other one, and then when I ran out of one bobbin, I just left the other one, and I will do something with it at another point in time and wind it off and ply it with something else whenever. But yeah, I do kind of want to keep this, even though I don't really like BFL. I don't mind spinning it, but I don't really like working with it. But it is very pretty, but I don't know what to do with a single skein of DK weight hand spun. So if you have any thoughts, let me know. I think it's really pretty though. It came out really nice. And that is all I have. Oh no, sorry. That's not all I have for finished objects. I almost forgot because I don't have it with me anymore. I will pop a picture right here. I made a quilt. And this was for my best friend who just had her son turn 1 year old, and we went up to celebrate his birthday with them, and I decided to make a quilt. This was, I think it ended up being like 35 by 55-ish. I think it was slightly smaller than what a like standard 40 by 60 baby blanket is, just slightly smaller. I used a charm pack that I got, I think, on Fat Quarter Shop, which is a website where you can get a lot of quilting fabric and materials. It was a 10 by 10 square charm pack, which was kind of nice. Charm packs usually are 5 by 5, and this one was 10 by 10 squares, and I arranged them how I liked and I put them together. I think I did 4 by 6. So I do have some left over. I could make a slightly smaller blanket, or I could use them, combine them with some other things and make them into a larger blanket if I got more fabric. And it was really great because I haven't quilted in over 20 years, I think. I started sewing and making quilts when I was 9 years old. And I honestly cannot remember when I stopped, or when the last time I did something like that was. It was a really long time ago, though. It has definitely been minimum 20 years since I've made a quilt. I think a few more years beyond that. But it was nice to have these nice large squares and kind of just patchwork them together because it helped me get my bearings with the quilting world again. There are definitely some spots that I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't love how that looks, but also it's handmade and it's supposed to be loved and imperfect, and no one but me knows unless you're a quilter and you're looking for it. I had big plans to, not big plans, but plans to sew the binding down with my machine because I am not good at hand sewing and I do not enjoy hand sewing. But I had a little bit of a kerfuffle with my machine and it temporarily broke, literally kind of exploded. Like the bobbin came flying out and the cover for the bobbin came flying out, and then the mechanism that holds the bobbin came flying out. Like literally as I was sewing it, just like, and I couldn't figure out how to fix it. And so I hand stitched the entire binding down. And I don't think I ever want to do that again. It was fine. I ended up getting into a groove, or I guess I should say, if I do that again, I'm not going to do it in a single day because I spent about 6 hours hand stitching the binding in a single day. I was like hunched over. It was not good. It was bad for my back, bad for my body. My fingers hurt so much. But in the end, we got it done. I learned some valuable things about how to do it, and I feel like I could do it again. I just think that I might try with my machine next time. Anyway, it was really fun, and I have now gone back into quite a sewing rabbit hole. It comes and goes occasionally over the years, and I really want to make some more things. I found a quilt that I started, again, 7 million years ago. I don't even remember. And I might finish it. It's weird. It's totally weird. I will show it to you sometime. And yeah, it's been fun. That's a question for you. Would you be interested in seeing me finish that quilt? Do any of you sew? Do any of you have resources for sewing? Do any of you know where I can get some good patterns? Because I would love to make clothes, but I don't remember a lot of the tailoring and stuff that I used to know, so I need help. I need someone to hold my hand as I am going through making things again. But would you be interested in seeing me try to learn some sewing stuff and finish this quilt? Or do we want to just stick to yarny things? It's totally fine if you say just yarn, but if you're interested in the sewing, that would be really cool too. I have a little halo now. Let's adjust you. I just decided to turn on my overhead lights because it is so gloomy here lately. It's been really, really rainy and foggy and just so gloomy in Connecticut. And I was like watching myself on the viewfinder. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so dark in here. So I turned on the light to talk about my works or work in progress. And that is really only one thing, because I worked so hard on getting the Keeley crop finished and finishing up those spins and spending time getting all of those plied, and I have only worked on one other thing since. I have this in, ooh, that's bright, a Delaque bag that I got at a yarn market in Indiana, and what is in here is the only thing that I have been working on for days and days and days, and that is the 6th Ave Skater Dress by Brie of the Little Wolf Knits. This is so bright. So I don't know if you'll be able to see this on the camera. Probably not, because it's gonna get blown out. There's a line that I can see. You probably can't see it. There's a line that I can see right maybe an inch or two after I joined for the underarms, because I got to that point before I went to Indiana. And then I brought this with me to Indiana, but I didn't touch it. And so like taking it with me and having it traveling and whatever, pulling on it, you can see like one line with like messed up tension right across the bust, but I'm hopeful that it will block out. And then when I got home, I picked it back up and I have just been cruising. So I got through all of my waist decreases and I am almost done with my hip increases. So let's talk a little bit about what I am doing. So this is some one-of-a-kind oopsie yarn that I had a pan of, and I decided it would be really fun to use. I would like to try to recreate this one day, and hopefully that day will come soon, but it's so fun for right now. Let's see, let's talk about modifications. I've done a couple of different things. One, I am using a US 6 needle. When the pattern calls for a 5, I just know that that is how I get the gauge for breeze patterns. So I always go up a needle size. And then I have added 1 inch, 1 inch to the armhole depth for this. I have said this here before, I do not like my clothes to be all up in my armpits, especially my handmade clothes. So I usually prefer a deeper armhole. So I added 1 inch to that, maybe 3/4 of an inch. I'm trying to remember. So I added 1 inch to the underarm, and I also added that inch to the scoop. So instead of doing the scoop to pattern and then adding an extra inch below it for the underarm, I made these front straps longer so that my scoop hits 1 inch lower on my bust. And I did all kinds of measuring and double checking that it wasn't going to be causing any issues to do that. And I tried it on the other day and it's fitting great, perfectly, exactly like I want. And then also the I-cord edging that goes around these will tighten it up just a little bit. So I think it is fitting perfectly. And then one other thing that I did is the pattern comes with optional short row shaping for the bust. And I'm kind of like right on the cusp of that. Like I could totally use some short row shaping and it would be great and make the fit perfect, but I could also usually get away with not doing it. And so what I did to make the fit a little bit more, to kind of like compensate for the fact that I decided not to do the short row shaping, is I started the decreases 1 inch sooner than what the pattern says. So if the pattern says to work to like 3 inches, I worked to 2 or whatever it says in the pattern. That can't be right. That's not the right numbers, but I worked to 1 inch shorter than what the pattern says. And then I began my decreases and then I added that extra inch in at the end after my decreases before my increases for the skirt, because I wanted it to start decreasing a little bit sooner to kind of like cut in more at the bust and kind of make up for the fact that I didn't have those short rows. And then also I have, usually my body is one size at the bust. I am a size down at the waist and then I'm 2 sizes up at the hips. So I didn't really feel like adding in extra decreases to get to my waist size because then I knew I would have to add in extra increases to get to my hip size. So I just figured if I like cut things in sooner and then I just have like more length of fabric at the smaller size, like I could kind of make up the difference. And it has worked beautifully. So that's what I did for that. And then now I am almost done with my increases. I am adding 3 or I think my goal is I'm gonna add 3 more extra increases beyond what the pattern says, because to make the pattern, I'm making the size 32. I don't think I said that. I'm making the size 32, and the hip size for the 32 is actually neutral ease on my hips. So I need to go up a little bit. So I'm not gonna be going up to the full like 10 inches, I think, that the pattern or the sample was made for. But I think I'll end up with about 8 inches-ish of positive ease at the hips. So we're going strong. I believe I have 2 more left. And then I have 7,000 miles of knitting to do around this skirt, because I was like, oh, I'm almost done with my increases. This is gonna be great. And then I held it up. And like, yes, this is gonna drop a little bit once it blocks, but like, we're basically at like the widest point of my hips. So I still have a ways to go of knitting straight, but that's okay. Oh, also I am using a little stitch marker that my friend Mac made me. This is a resin stitch marker that she sells. Is that, oh, it might be hard to, I think this color is throwing everything off. But Mac made that for me, and I threw it on here because I thought all the bright colors would be fun. I'm sorry I just talked about that for so long, but there was a lot to cover, because if you want to make this dress as well and you're built similarly to me, or have similar sizing differences like I do, then maybe those tips will help. Time to talk shop for a quick second. I went through my new Back in My Day collection tonals last time we spoke, and this time I can finally say that they have been added to the website. So if you are watching this video, well, okay, if you're watching this video like the moment it goes live, they might not be up, but they are launching noon on Friday, June 20th, which is also when this video is going live. So you should be able to order those colorways when you are seeing this. And as a quick reminder of what they are, I'm gonna hold them back here so that you get more accurate colors. We have Makin' Whoopie, Goin' Steady, Whippersnapper, I'm dropping things, Curmudgeon, and then we have Kerfuffle, Knuckle Sandwich, oh, that goes well with this, whoops, still dropping things, Fiddlesticks, and Bob's Your Uncle. And these are all available for you. I have very, very limited quantities of ready to ship that I will be listing, but this is pretty much a pre-order collection, but I will be starting to dye them as soon as those orders come in, so they will be heading out the door to you. And then I can't wait to see what you make. Life. Oh, life. It has been fun. It's been great. I went to the Hoosier Hills Fiber Festival and surprised a bunch of friends in Indiana, and it was amazing. Like I said, there is a vlog about the whole thing, and you can go check that out if you haven't seen it already. And it was the best. It was the absolute best. But I came home feeling a little bit sick. And then it was my birthday. And I took a day completely away from technology, and I went to the beach and I read a whole book on my birthday. It was the perfect day. It was exactly what I needed, exactly what I wanted. Mother Nature gave me a beautiful day weather-wise. My husband got me a really sweet beach chair that has like an umbrella thing that comes out of it. It was awesome. So it was the perfect day. Absolutely amazing, wonderful. Sad it's over. Wish I could do that like at least once a week. But then since then, it has been like gloomy and cold and rainy, and my sciatica's been acting up, and I've been sleeping poorly, and it has just been kind of a poopy couple of days. I'm fine. I'm not like grumpy. Nothing's wrong. It's just been kind of like, ugh, like when is the sun coming back? I just want a good night's sleep. I need like 5 more cups of coffee, you know? But the good definitely outweighs the bad. It has been such an amazing couple of weeks. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, we got to go and hang out with my best friend and her family. And it was so lovely to see them all again and to squish the little one. And yeah, so it has been overall a very, very good 2 weeks. But man, I am tired. All right, we have a couple of books to go over. The first thing that I read, or actually listened to, is Lone Women by Victor LaValle. And this was for a book club, the Little Wolf Knits thriller mystery suspense book club. And I didn't start it until I think like the day that book club was meeting, so I didn't get to talk to anyone about it. If you've read it and you would like to talk about it, hit me up. This, I gave 3 stars. I thought it was okay. It is about a woman that goes traveling across the country with a very, very heavy steamer trunk, and you don't know what's in the trunk. Eventually you find out what's in the trunk. All hell breaks loose, that kind of stuff. I thought it was fine. A 3-star book for me is something that like I had a good time while I was reading it, but like probably as soon as I finished reading it, the details are fading a little bit and I don't really remember what happened. I thought it was lacking just a little bit. It didn't really like pull me in too much, but it was an enjoyable read and I don't regret it. Then on my birthday, I listened to the entirety of Finlay Donovan Digs Her Own Grave. This is, I think, the 4th or 5th or 6th. I think it's the 5th book in the Finlay Donovan series, but there is a short story that, or like little novella that happens in between there. So I have it listed as the 6th book on my little database. This is a really fun series about an author who writes mystery novels, who is meeting with her agent one day and is talking about killing off characters in her upcoming book. And someone overhears the conversation, misunderstands what they're talking about, and tries to hire Finlay to deal with her husband. It is very silly. It is very goofy. I gave this book 4 stars. I will not talk much about what happens in this book. I liked it better than the previous one. I think the series has kind of been going a little bit downhill for me. I think book 3 and 4, maybe, I was like losing steam a little bit. They weren't like really pulling me in, but this one was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I am wondering where the series is gonna go. I'm probably gonna continue on with the series because the audiobooks are produced pretty well. I really like them, and so I mean that's easy enough for me to just kind of cruise through an audiobook and get some laps in. Next up, I read kind of Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Marr. I'm not sure how you pronounce her last name. I should have looked that up. I say kind of because I decided to DNF this book, which means did not finish. I decided to put it down at about 40%. I was about a page and a half in when I was like, this book is not for me. I don't like it. And I decided to keep trying. This is for a book club that I am a part of in my town, and I wanted to give it a fair shot. I got to about 40% and then I texted my friend and I was like, look, if I hated it at the beginning, I still hate it now. I've hated it all the way through. Is anything going to happen that's going to change my mind? And she was like, just stop. Just stop reading it. Just stop right now. This is not, just not my vibe. This is like one of those TikTok books that everyone's obsessed with. It's romantasy. I hate that word. It felt very juvenile for a book that's not YA to my knowledge. Yeah, I don't think I'll talk about it much more because I know a lot of people really love this and probably a lot of my viewers really love this. And I have feelings, but I won't say them. Let's move on to the next one. The next book that I read was Starter Villain by John Scalzi, and I loved this book. It was so good. This I gave 4 stars because I felt like the ending kind of fell a little bit flat or wrapped up a little bit too quickly for me. But this, after having a big John Scalzi flop with my last book that I talked about last time, this one was so good. This is about a man who inherits his uncle's estate and finds out that his uncle was actually an evil billionaire that was basically trying to take over the world, and he has talking cats, and it was hilarious. If you like cats and you can deal with some very light sci-fi, I highly recommend this book. It's so funny. John Scalzi's sense of humor is so silly. Honestly, like the only sci-fi part of this book is the fact that there are these like evil billionaire like projects like talking cats or like satellites that can, you know, laser destroy things and stuff like that. So it's not even like there's nothing really scientific about it. So if you can get on board with that and you like cats, highly recommend. Loved it so much. Such a good book. Renewed my faith in John Scalzi and his writing. Anyway, that's all we got for today. Thanks for sticking around. I feel like I got a little bit long-winded with a bunch of my projects today, but it was really fun to talk about them with you. So make sure you give this video a like and subscribe if you like what you're seeing. We are very close to a big milestone here on the channel, so I would appreciate your help if you would like to give it. And other than that, take care of you, and I will see you later. Bye.